First of all and foremost, we want to thank you all for standing with us through the past months. It's been a lot of work. It's been a lot of fun. But sending us, fundraising, preparing to actually go to Honduras, your prayers and your financial participation were essential. It not only made us possible for us to go as a team to do the week there, but you also went with us through all of that. That's scriptural. That's from 2 Corinthians chapters 8 and 9. Paul and Titus and another guy that doesn't get his name in there, but he was part of the team that took a gift from the church in Macedonia to the church in Corinth. And it was one struggling, poor, impoverished church to another, but they scraped together a gift to know that they had encouragement and help from other believers. And that's what you all enabled us to do. And so because of that, it says through your participation in helping us go, God says he will supply the seed for an enlarged harvest of your righteousness so that we can be generous on every occasion. And it was very fun and a great blessing to be generous to the people of Honduras, to all those dear folks you saw that's just tiny bits and nutshells of what we saw all week long. And to get to be the channels of your blessing to the people in Honduras was life-changing for all of us. To explain a little bit, and I only know the very surface thing, WGO is a very far-reaching organization, and I think we can all say that every dollar they receive is very well invested and spent. They personally employ a lot of people. We each worked with translators. I don't think anybody in our group was fluent in Spanish, and most of the people we helped were not fluent in English, so the translators were essential. People that staff the grounds, their families all receive benefit because of the gifts to WGO. And one thing we were all impressed, but how organized they are, how much work goes on behind the scenes for us to be able to do a week of service there. The communication with all of the places where we were serving, the pastors, the work teams through their church, it's pretty amazing. And it all happened with such organization. A church they work with about 200 different churches around the outskirts of Tegucigalpa, and they mostly are in the outskirts because that's where there's not medical care available. Even the government clinics that are down in the main part of the city, the people don't have access to. And even if they do, they don't have funds to buy the medicine, to receive treatment. So WGO has stepped into a real need for that country. So it might be 2 years between when the two churches that we served at are again on the list to receive service from WGO. It's pretty amazing to watch this happen. It's all loaded up in the back of a big cargo truck that drives through these bumpy, rocky streets. It's a real physical outpouring to ride the bus to the churches. My neck was sore for quite a few days. But they roll up with these brigade clinics, all the supplies in the back of a cargo truck. And it's like ants on an anthill. It's all set up and ready to go in about 15, 20 minutes. We gathered for prayer and we went to work. So it was pretty amazing to watch that all happen and to know what went on behind the scenes before we even showed up. The mission house is beautiful, it's very comfortable, and it's a great benefit to the work WGO is able to do through that. Betsy, the nurse that is there full-time, we had a lot of conversations on this hour-and-a-half long bus ride back and forth every day, and she said, having been there in the past and then back in the States for a period of years and now back again, she sees the great benefit that it is to have Othniel, a native Honduran, born and raised there. He knows the culture, he knows the government, he knows the mindset of the people. He is now in leadership of WGO. She said the change in effectiveness is very noticeable for Othniel being in the leadership there. So if I myself had to pick one highlight from the week, I'm not sure I could, but one experience I did get to have working in the dental clinic one morning was to explain to a room full of about 30 kindergartners how to brush their teeth and hand out toothbrushes and get to demonstrate. It was delightful, but also a tearful hug around the neck from a woman who had just had a painful tooth pulled. It was life-changing for her, and just working together, all of us, and listening. It's a way to experience God that I'd not had before, and I've had a lot of overseas experiences myself, but this one was unique, and I would do it again in a heartbeat. And I'll tell y'all just, what day is today? This is Sunday. Thursday, I got the outline for all the team planning for next year from Melissa, who lives over at Gardner, but she works full-time with WGO. So start planning. I'm going to introduce my brother Dow. He's the dentist that went with our team, and he's here from Bueller near Hutchinson today, and the rest of my family's here too. This was a treat. So
I'm not sure how I got selected to come up next, but just as a few things I was thinking of around here. Somehow I got on this group with your church members, who also, by the way, is only half of our team, because there were people from Colorado, Topeka, and Tennessee. Okay, so anyway, all of which, other than my sister and her daughter, who also went, my niece, I didn't know anyone, but I sure do now. Okay, so, and I think that's was part of the thing that impressed me, is that a group of people who really, as a majority, did not know each other, came together, and we were, it was noted that our team, I mean, we got along well, we worked well, we got stuff done, that kind of thing, and that's kind of the goal of the whole thing. So just a couple of things. She mentioned that we rode on a bus a lot. Guys, you don't know, if you don't believe in miracles, you do if you rode on that bus, okay? The streets are narrow, and then when we got up to the places where the churches were on the outer skirts of the city, by the way, the city is 1.3 million, isn't that correct? Something like that. So it's a big city. Tegucigalpa, I wanted to say that because it took me a long time to learn it. Okay, anyway, but anyway, just to give you an idea, how many of you have an Apple Watch or something like that? You're familiar with them? Okay. Well, you know, it through the day, it tells you how many steps you've gotten and so forth. Okay. Well, one day we had a kind of a late morning, got started on the bus and so forth. About 2 p.m. on the way back, my watch goes off and said I'd met my steps. And all I'd done is sit on that bus bouncing all over the place. Okay? So let me tell you, it really was quite a sight. And the guy that drove, I mean, you'd have to learn how to drive in that country, because narrow streets, when you were going downhill thinking, at last it's easy, he's going to take it easy, and he was gunning it because he had to get up the other hill. Okay, so there was just little things like that. Somehow I got selected to go along with you because they heard I was in the drilling business. And, you know, Joel's kind of his family's in the drilling business, so I thought they just picked me to go along, and then they found out they just made me do teeth. So that's just kind of the way that works. So a lot of different things through the week, and you'll hear more of them if I quit talking in a little bit. So I think that one of the things that impressed me was the fact that when you get out of your familiarity, okay, like we all have every week, we know we go to the same place, go to the same church, Do you ever get around people who don't know God and Jesus? Or do we just stay in our comfort zone? Well, this obviously got us out of our comfort zone. And it does give you new perspectives. You learn a lot. You get stretched. And we saw true gratitude from people. I mean, that they weren't just saying thanks. They really meant it. So it's just kind of a really good, so I guess I encourage you also, if you get a chance to go on one of these, it's a stretch, and it always works out. Tough to get so you can go, and then when you get back, you got to recover from what you didn't do while you were there, but it's worth it. So I think that's mostly what I want to say. Great group of people you have here as members of your congregation, that's for sure. So maybe I can be adopted sometime or something like that. Okay. All right. Okay. And I don't. Who's next? There you go. Okay. I don't want to start reading.
Go to Honduras. Get out of your comfort zone, like Dahl just said. It'll be fun, they said. And the trip we took to Central America proved to be exciting and fun and everything, just I couldn't imagine what it was going to be like. I didn't do a lot of research about the history or the climate, and so that was probably a good thing. But it was really amazing. So it proved to be both a challenge and an adventure. And the best part, along with a great group, was I was traveling to Tegucigalpa, Honduras, on a short missions trip with my youngest daughter, Sydney, and would be experiencing this part of the world through her eyes as well as my own, not ever traveling to a third world country. She had never flown before or been to a third world country either. So that was just kind of a personal note that I thought was just great. So I must begin by saying it was Sydney's idea to go. Initially, I was going because there was no way she was going to go to Honduras by herself, even with the knowledge she'd be going with a professional and well-organized and established group, and that they were, as you heard. She definitely proved herself to be a strong and caring young woman as we ministered and worked alongside the local churches and awesome staff of WGO, World Gospel Outreach. And Rick, our group leader, was equally amazing. So I didn't want to embarrass Sydney too much. She can speak for herself. But Rick, he just went on and on about these young people. I mean, just how hardworking and serious, but also, fun, good attitudes. I mean, and I had the privilege of working alongside him as well on the concrete crew. So, I mean, these young people are absolutely awesome. I knew that already, but I just established that. With abundant razor wire and remnants of post-'70s government and social upheaval still quite prevalent, the hustle and bustle of the city revealed the hardworking and proud Honduran people of Tegucigalpa. Those in the impoverished areas we ministered in were innovative and thankful for what they had. They were also joyful and grateful for the help and hope that we offered. Many loved the Lord deeply, and I felt like I was among many friends comprised of North Americans and Hondurans during the entirety of the trip. Sid and I did concrete work a few days together with Lake and Dylan and Mario, our interpreter. He was a whole other story. Maybe you guys can talk about him a little bit, but I didn't think I would, one day into the trip, I would meet a guy in Honduras named Mario, who was a graphic designer too, so we struck up a little bit of conversation about that. I delivered rice and beans and set up water filters in a couple of homes for one of the days. So I got off the concrete. Maybe they didn't want to give the old man a break, but I felt like I was going strong, wouldn't you say? Okay, okay. Good answer, right? So my takeaway from the trip, I mean, there are many experiences I've yet to unpack, but first and foremost, I feel like the people are people everywhere, and we are made in the image of God. The church service we attended on the first Sunday was very impactful in a lot of ways. I mean, I usually, I'm not really a crying man, but I mean, that service on Sunday, I was just walked in, was standing there experiencing all this new stuff, and I just, little drop of water came down, I was going like that, and it was very powerful, I thought, in a very simple way. The worship, the girls that were doing the interpretive dance, and it was just something else. And I didn't understand Spanish, so my thoughts are, for me, is that perhaps I rely too heavily upon the trappings of life and could possibly do more with less. Another lesson would be that apart from the vine, we can do nothing. I am the vine, you are the branches. He who abides in me, and I in him, he bears much fruit. For apart from me, you can do nothing. So we need to work together. I mean, speaking for myself, working with others, because that's where the real faith and power are. And another clear takeaway is found in James 1:27. Religion that is pure and undefiled before God the Father is this: to visit orphans and widows in their affliction and to keep oneself unstained from the world. So my hope is that this trip will have a lasting impact on those we served. Getting out of the comfort zone has hopefully, changed my perspective and priorities, and I'm glad and thankful I was able to go. No regrets whatsoever in that regard, and I'm excited to talk about it. So the time traveling and working alongside church family and my daughter on this adventure was full of memorable moments that I believe we will share for a very long time. So thank you all.
Hey, I didn't prepare anything today, and I'm not good with words, but I just wanted to say one of the most beneficial things to see, I think, was what they're talking about, like going to Honduras with people we had never met, but being brought together by the Spirit and being able to work with each other through the Spirit. And also just going to the church and working alongside other believers that we had never met, can't even speak the same language, couldn't understand each other, but we were still able to work together and have that connection between us. And yeah, I thought that was really cool and just inspired me to just build up my connections and get together with believers to do more things in our community and to, just do God's work with other Christians. I thought that was really cool. I don't know.
Hello, everybody. My name's Lake. I also didn't prepare anything. I didn't know I was speaking here till yesterday, but I just wanted to share some stuff we did throughout the week. I worked with my brother Dylan in everything we did throughout the week. We worked concrete 2 days, and it was just super cool to see how thankful all the people were for what they had. They just have a little shack, but they just treat it so well, and it was just they just treat it very well, and are very thankful for everything they have. And then one of the days we worked in the children ministry, and we would wash the kids' hair. We'd give them either a comb or a bow tie or whatever, and do their hair all fancy, and send them home. And it was just really cool to see the smile on their faces after we did that for them. And they just seemed so thankful for all the little things. And it was just really cool because, like Sydney was saying, there's a language barrier, but it just feels like you can still communicate with them, even though they don't understand what you're saying and you can't hear what they're saying. It just kind of works out, it almost feels like. That's all I have to say.
Hi, I'm Dylan, Lake's brother. I guess I've already been introduced. But yeah, I pretty much did concrete the whole week except for one day when we did children's. And we weren't only washing hair, but we also were like combing hair lice out of the kids' hair, which was definitely an experience. But yeah, it was really great to see how thankful they were for the concrete floors. It was really difficult, like the concrete was. There's no like mix or anything. You have to just dump everything on the ground and like make a pond of concrete, basically. But yeah, one other thing that stood out to me was our devotional time was really good in the evening. We often would go like an hour, even I think one night we went 2 hours over on our devotional, and it was just great getting to like get closer with all these people like in my church that I didn't actually know that well. But yeah, it was just super great to serve and to see another perspective of another country, and I think everyone should go there at some point. That's all I have. Who's next?
Oh, thank you. Hello, I'm Joel, and I'm just gonna kind of add on to what they were saying. One of the days I went and did concrete with them, we go up on this hill, and there's 2 houses, and one of the native Honduran guys was helping us lay the concrete, and we got to talking to him, and he had told us he had owned that house, and he was letting someone whose parents had just passed away live in that house. And so he had very little, and he was still giving so much. And then another story I would like to tell is I was in evangelism one day, and I'm just going to say evangelism is not really my gift. And I was talking, and the last guy who came through was an older gentleman, and I was talking to him through my interpreter, and he was telling me he had been married for 47 years, had 11 kids, and I asked him, how many grandkids do you have? And he's like, a lot, is what he told me. And then he prayed for me, and then it was just interesting, and makes me feel like we should all do a little more in our own communities.
Yes, it was definitely a great experience. I'm not a medical person, but so I ended up doing either the water or going to people's homes to take food and working with the children. And it was awesome. The one experience I'll share with you that really touched me a lot, a couple people I'd like you to pray for, Johanna and Sophia. Johanna is someone I went to her home, and she seemed like she was a little sick, but it was to take food. And I asked her, because I was there to evangelize, and I asked her, I go, do you have a Bible? And she said she did, and she walked behind this curtain, and she got this Bible that was so worn out. And I asked her what her favorite psalm was, and she opened it up and proceeded to stand and read Psalm 91. And I think everybody experienced when we went into anybody's home, and we're talking a room, they stood and had us sit. They were so courteous, and all the homes, a room, were so neat and clean. But outside the homes, there's no trash pickup, so there's a lot of trash. The roads aren't paved. There's not running water. There's no postal service. And I did do a little research on it after I left because I was perplexed about some of this and why the need is so great. And 60% of the population doesn't have work. So I think prayers for the people shepherding these people and prayers against any kind of corruption and that kind of thing. But I really want to talk about the work that the medical team did. Dahl literally and Jill were bent over pulling teeth and cleaning teeth for an entire day with only a brief stop for lunch. Like, I couldn't believe the hard work everybody was doing. And usually the drive to where we were going was an hour or an hour and a half. And it was on roads that aren't paved, up hills literally like this. And so everybody was such troopers, and they were so positive, and I love that we brought up the devotional time. I wasn't thinking about that, but we did get to know all these other people, and it was really, for me, I don't think, I feel like everybody here has been walked as a believer since they were young, and I'm relatively new, thank God, coming into this place in 2020, and going into that, and also, I hadn't been feeling very good. I think when you go on one of these, you want to make sure that you're feeling super strong. I'm so glad I went. I'm just saying that just some basic things, like just make sure you're in a place that you're like, I am so ready to serve. Because I did have trouble sleeping, and I did actually get sick when I got back. And it's not about me, but I just wanted to say some of those basic things for people that are considering going on a mission trip, to get yourself solid, and because you're there to serve, not to be in a weakened state. But yeah, there were so many moments like that were just beyond touching. The people, I always hate to generalize people, but I just want to say that our experience, I think everyone could agree, they were so gentle and just welcoming and hugging, and like just the eye contact and the just gratitude that we don't see a lot here, that we sometimes ourselves don't have, but just this immense gratitude with very, very, very little. And so I think praying also for nutrition, food, good, healthy food to get to these people. What's ironic is that they could be growing the most amazing food 12 months out of the year. It's the perfect ecosystem, perfect. They could have all the meat, all these things, but something's not quite right. They're not getting those types of things. There are lots of mission organizations going there, thank God, to serve these people, but it sure would be neat for them to be able to fish, and for the people that are leading them and shepherding them to provide more, I don't know what's really going on. Only God knows, and He's sovereign over all this, and I think it's amazing that we get to go serve in a way to see how. I came back and I was like, I'm so grateful I pay taxes, because we have postal service. We have clean parks. We can walk at 3 a.m. in this town and not worry about anything happening to us. We've got so much. So I think saying that gratitude list every day, even the fact that you pay taxes, that's what I walked away with from somebody who used to be a real rebel, okay? So anyway, it was awesome.
All right, I'll try to wrap this up in just a few minutes if I can. I've got so many things I'd like to share. One of them is kind of funny. So a lot of people that know me, I do not like to fly. But if you don't know this, to get to Honduras, you have to fly. And so I was ready, I was all set, everything was great, and the flight there was amazing. And knowing, I was all worried about Sydney since she hadn't flown before, but I didn't want to tell her my fear of it. So anyway, we get there, all is fine, but now I'm not sure which I was more scared of, the flight or the bus ride. Because I kid you not, but Pedro is the most amazing bus driver ever. He got us in places that you would think a bus couldn't go. But the flight home, I think it was, one of them was, no, maybe it was to Honduras. From Florida to Honduras, we had a little bit of turbulence. So I'm sitting next to a stranger, and I asked him if I could have the armrest because I need to hang on. And so I was a little nervous and stuff, but I did fine. But then after we get off and we get there, I go, Sydney, are you okay? Oh, yeah, I thought it was kind of fun. Turbulence? Okay. Anyway. So I can't really add to all of that. I mean, everything that they said, I agree totally with. I'm so glad now I can pronounce Tegucigalpa. It did take me a long time. I worked, because I don't specialize, I'm not a nurse, I'm not a dentist, I did get to work in the pharmacy one day, and that was really interesting. So they have it all set up, they've got these big totes with all the drugs already ready in baggies and stuff, and so once they go through the medical department, then they come over, or station, then they come over to pharmacy. The assistant hands you what they need, the medicine, the sheet. Sometimes it was in Spanish, sometimes it's in English, but we were doing fine. I can't remember, I was working with this young girl from Colorado the first time, and we thought, man, we've got this down, this is great. And then after we were stopping and breaking for lunch, and I asked the pharmacist, I said, so what's this basket right here? And she goes, "Oh, mistakes." I'm like, "Oh, great. All of our mistakes that we'd made throughout the morning, she was just putting them aside." I was like, "Ah, man, we thought we were doing so good." But anyway, so I worked pharmacy. I did kids a lot since I'm a teacher. And I did work in dental one day, and that was definitely stretching. I could not watch them extract the teeth. I could not watch them with the syringe shoot. You know, I've got all these pictures of me turning my back and stuff. But what I really came away with was the camaraderie. I loved the devotions. We had them every morning, every evening. We prayed before each brigade every day. When we went to the ranch on Wednesday, and we haven't really talked about that, the ranch is also supported by WGO, and for lack of a better word, I mean, it's a children's home, it's an orphanage, but it's like on 88 acres. There's like 6 houses on it. The kids live in a house with house parents. I mean, it's self-sustaining. They have the school on the property, but it was really interesting. And I must say that the minute we got there, some of the guys, some of the Honduran kids kind of came and got you or grabbed you. You went and played soccer with them, and they had a great time. And they have like 29 kids that live on this property. And if I'm not mistaken, and Paula, maybe you can help, is once they are there, are they there until they are 18 and can leave, right? So and they just, like in January, I know it was recent, I don't remember what month, they got 2 little, I mean, they're like 1 and 2 or something like that. They got some little guys. But when we were getting ready to leave the day before, Rachel and not Neil are the ones that are directors of this, and Rachel was going to meet with us and have a re-entry meeting, like debriefing. And I'm like, oh my, like, we've only been here a week. You know, I was kind of shocked that we had to have, but boy, did she nail it. Like, she just said, you know, you've been doing this, you're going to go back to your community, and you're a changed person going home. I'm getting chills now just thinking about it. Like, I came home, and I remember I had to hurry up and get ready for VBS. We started it and came here for a meeting Sunday night after I just got home at like 2 in the morning, Saturday or Sunday morning. And I think it was Diana that asked me, "So how was your trip?" And I couldn't even say a word. I just started crying. Like, it was just a wonderful experience, but it just changed me to, like, I live in a house that I always complain about. I say it's too little, or I have old furniture, I need new stuff. And anybody from Honduras that we served, they would have given anything to live in my house that I think is nothing. And it just made me think, you know, a lot about that. Plus, what am I going to do now that I'm home? Like, I say I'm a changed person. I'm saying that I want to serve. I want to, you know, be the hands and feet of Jesus. But what am I going to do right here, basically in my backyard? So that's what I've been praying about, is figuring out where my spot is here. I'd love to go back to Honduras, and I'd do it again. But what am I going to do right here in Lawrence, Kansas? And thank you for supporting us and getting us there.
So I guess that's the nutshell of our week there. And thank you again so much for sending us, being there with us, praying for us. And I would just ask you to continue. They are hard at work there. Rachel was working on a huge mailing to come back to the States for their child support program. Their school and the ranch is supported by individuals who sponsor a child. And those are sweet, sweet children. They had 8 new children come to the ranch just within the 2 weeks before we arrived, and getting them settled and all the work that goes into housing them and caring for them. It's very significant. And just a comparison, we were encouraged to take small bills to use in the shops or any shopping that we did. And I said, you mean not 50s, like 20s and 10s? And they said, no, 1s and 5s. If you hand someone there a $20 bill, that's like handing them $500 in their economy. So thank you again. Your dollars and your prayers went a long way for us, and we just appreciate every minute of it. Thank you so much.